everybody. So thank you so much. We are doing Love Thyself Men's Edition tonight, where we're gonna have a an interesting and authentic conversation with a couple of good men, just about life, love, self love in particular, health and mental health in general from a male perspective. A couple of months ago, I hosted Love Thyself Women's Edition, and the guest was saying, you should have had men in this conversation. And I just felt strongly that men need to have a conversation of their own. Like you talk to the women, you talk to the men, and then you bring the groups together. So at some point, there will be another panel where I have men and women talking about issues of love, relationships and things like that. But this one is for the guys. And if you are looking at these people or hearing from them, you might know them because they have been featured on my Instagram and in my podcast. And so we talked about a lot of things, mainly about education. All of us are educators, but tonight we're going to be talking more about that interpersonal stuff, right? Because we want to get down to the meat of things and really get into the conversation. So, as I said, this is something the author came up with just to further the conversation. Things that I think are important that we don't often discuss, but that really need to be discussed um, amongst ourselves in the community. So much misinformation, miscommunication, hurt feelings, uh, slander, wild and crazy thoughts are just floating out there in the internet world because we follow memes and we don't have real conversations anymore. So I wanted to have a conversation with my guys here. So I'm going to do a brief introduction, but of course, I want you to take the time to brag on yourself and let people know who you are and what you do. First up, we have Brother B, who is an amazing educator. As you can see, he has on his A's hat. He represents Oakland to the fullest, East Oakland to be exact. We were talking before people got on about the Warriors winning NBA championships again. But I have known him for quite some time. He was featured on my podcast even a couple months ago. We did a live together and we talked about education, talked about mentorship and things like that. So, Brother D, what else do you want them to know about you?
I mean, you pretty much summed it up. You brings us out. That's pretty much it. I just
I
want to
love it.
I'm honored to be on here, and I'm honored because the brother that you have on here, I know personally. So this is just like I've always often said. I know I'm on the right when I revisit folks. When folks come back in my circle, that's how I know I'm on the right path. Me and this brother have a long history.
We do.
So
I love that because honestly, I did not even know that y'all two knew each other. In my mind, I'm like, they probably do. Like, how
I
do they know each
intentionally didn't tell you that. I intentionally didn't
Me
tell you that.
neither. Me neither. Me neither.
other?
Me. I didn't say. I didn't intentionally. Yeah. Me neither. Neither one of us. We.
Uh, So this is gonna be a good conversation. Okay, so Leon,
Actually, yeah.
me and Leon have known each other for quite some time. And actually, Leon and I met in the club, and he was taking pictures. You know, like how you go in the club and people take pictures and you get your little pictures and go on the back stuff. And he was taking pictures, and we started talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to become a teacher," and I was like, "Me too." And since then, we have been in touch and just have been pouring our hearts and souls into young people over the years. As you guys may know, I stopped teaching a couple years ago, but Leon is still in the fight for our babies out there, as well as Brother D. And so he's going to tell you a little bit more about what he does. I know him as a photographer and videographer, but he does way more than that. So go ahead and tell him what you do, Leon.
Can y'all hear me first off? I want to see if I can hear me. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
perfectly fine. Okay. My
Crystal clear.
my name. Okay. My name is Leon Breckenridge. I am from Oakland, California. By way, my mom is from South Carolina. My father, who passed away in October, is from Oklahoma. So I was one of the first Sooners. My family's one of the first Sooners. Uh, my grandma's from Texas. Let's see. As for me, I am a educator. I'm a filmmaker. I honestly like try to figure out ways of communication with people, and that could be in the form of writing, that could be the form of talking to people. I also have another podcast called Dope Exchange with my friend Love Air Exchange, Tamara Williams. So if you want to check out some of the videos we've done with that, please go check it out. It is very dope exchanges for real, for real. I am part of Oakland Voices, so I write articles for the Oakland side. I am on Instagram doing videos, and I do videos and stuff. And I just have and just a couple. I just like reading and doing yoga and stuff, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me for right now.
I love it. I didn't realize you were so talented. And congrats on the podcast. I was able to check out a recent episode that you did, and it's really good. So before this is over, I want you to pop in the chat how they can access that. They were emailed your Instagram stuff already, but we want to make sure. And Brother D has a podcast, so
My
go ahead
link
and let them know
tree.
kind of closer to the end where they can check y'all out.
Okay.
Yeah, your link tree, or there's other ones that people have, all that. Pop all that in there.
In fact, do
Tonight's
this right now.
topic is love and self love. So my first question to the both of you is, what does self love mean to you? How would you define it?
You want to take it first, Brother Leon?
For self love, I think I go first. I go first. So I think that self love is about you believing in yourself and believing in things that you like, regardless of what other people think. I think self love is holding yourself accountable, but also knowing when you are worth more. So knowing healthy boundaries, and also not only knowing healthy boundaries, but also knowing when you've made a mistake and realizing that you love yourself enough to say, hey, I made a mistake, because you saying that you made a mistake doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you made a mistake in that moment. So I think self-love also is, believing and being and being humble, but also being assertive too, like not taking yourself in a situation of being assertive, of not being misguided in that direction.
I'm on the same page with that, brother. To me, self love is also reflective of the folks around you, because it also like includes the folks that love the same things you love about yourself. They should love. I think a lot of times we hit that wall when our ideals of what we consider self love might not necessarily match other folks. I always tell people to practice it. Same thing with self care. It doesn't have to always be something huge. It could be, hey, pick Fridays and go get your favorite flavor ice cream. Go get your nails done. Listen to your favorite music. Everybody can't go to Bora Bora and to France and all these big things. It's the small things. I try to get people to identify, what are your small joys. What is something that don't take a lot of money, a lot of time, or a lot of effort that you can do consistently. Try to focus more so on those type of things. I love music. Music just puts me in a zone. No matter what's going on in my life, I can always depend on, let me throw some old school stuff on or whatever. It's going to put me in a certain space where I'm not worrying about nothing else. That's a small joy. It don't cost me nothing.
That was good. So I'm hearing a lot of things. So I heard believing in yourself, setting boundaries, holding yourself accountable, um, taking care of yourself, really being smart about the people that you have around you. If I'm a person that is sort of new on my self love journey, what are some signs really that I can easily identify, or maybe even also easily identify, to know that I'm really exhibiting self love? How do I know when I actually love myself?
Hmm. Hmm. That's a I. That's a good point. I guess when you like what you like, I think
I
that
was
yeah, you can get yeah. Go. Can you hear?
Go ahead, brother Leon.
It's when you, I guess for me, I can't. I'll say, like, for me, I think it had to do more with me doing things that I want to do. I think when you start doing things you want to do and not feel guilty about it, I mean, as long as it ain't illegal or what, or something that's immoral or something you feel like that, you'll be ashamed of. But I do think that you gotta start zipping in that, and also too, just doing that when reflecting and supporting people in healthy ways and recognizing that you are caring for them and valuing them in ways that help them. It may not be as much as you can or you won't, but you recognizing that in that spirit, in that nature, in that moment, you feel like you are capable of there, that self-love or that thing is you're doing, you're doing it in the right place, and you're not doing it out of vitriol and anger. So if you do express yourself aggressively or assertively, you won't feel like that you're being like Draymond Green or something. You know what I'm saying? You ain't trying to cuss it. You ain't trying to rip a man's head off. But also but critiquing is a necessity, but also recognizing too, like, you have feelings and needs too. And people should treat you like a human being, even if you do make a mistake. And also zipping in that self-love is recognizing you giving somebody love and attention or in things like that, even when they're not doing it, because at the end of the day, you can go home that you did what you did in a healthy way. You didn't destroy and discourage that person.
I think one of the signs where you, Leon, were you finished, Brother Leon?
Yeah, I'm finished. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, yes, sir. I would say one of the first signs is you just by default stop worrying about the external stuff and external people. You stop being concerned with it. Like, I know people that can tell me more about what's going on in celebrity lives and advice for celebrities than in their own lives. Like, why are you even concerned about some things that don't even necessarily affect you in your everyday life? I think that's the first sign that like, stuff I was tripping off of and I was worrying about and I thought was important are just not as important. My own example, I made a concerted effort going into this year. I've always been that brother that's proactive in making sure I check in on people if I haven't heard from them in a long time. Just on G, that's just who I am. But this year was different, and I said, let me just see what happens if I don't reach out to certain people, how long it'll be, or if they'll even see if I'm even still alive. And I stuck to that. It just really, and what's ended up happening is, it's not only was I paying attention to who was hitting me, it was like what they were hitting me for. Not out of like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, can you do fill in the blank? And it's kind of, I'm a big believer in people treat you how they view you. It ain't rocket science. People treat you exactly how they view you. So if you're a resource and that's all they view you as, ultimately that's draining to me. And I'm at the point in my life right now, I can't afford to give nothing extra, period. Like, there's so many things I'm trying to hone in on. And part of that is my personal peace.
Those are such good points. And that actually brings me to a question that one of my followers posed. Let me go to it. He says, I'm so glad you are having this event and this opportunity for men to speak about what really goes on. When it comes to the topic of self-love, how when it comes to the topic of self-love, I'm always unsure how I can find love for myself while constantly being asked to show love to other people. I'm seen as simply a provider, and no one asks me, am I okay if I'm getting the love that I receive, if my needs are met? It's all about what I can do for other people. How do I, sorry, how do I get my needs met? How do I show up for myself and exhibit self love without seemingly offending people who only expect to receive love from me and not give it in return?
I would say learn the power of your no.
Ooh, say more about that.
discover the power of no. Folks will magically find other outlets. They swear to God you were the only one that can help them with that. They find a way. Trust me, folks will find a way. You were just convenient for the most part. That's why they were reaching out to you. was a case of convenience. It wasn't necessarily as deep or as tragic as it might seem. I'm not saying be cold, callous, and heartless, but you'll notice a pattern with certain folks. And this goes back to why I keep saying people treat you how they view you. It's that simple. So learn the value of your no, and also see how people respond to that. Are they gonna respect it, or somehow make it seem like now you acting funny style? I'm acting funny style because I'm not letting you use me. Dig that Jedi mind trick.
But let me throw this out there too. Do you think it's common that people just feel like men don't need love? Like men are supposed to be cold, callous, straightforward to the point. Like, you know, here's your gift, here's some money. I go in my dungeon, my man cave, and you know, be a man. Like that very sort of macho masculine
Uh,
thing that love is not needed. Because this person is basically saying like people just want me to give to them, and nobody's like caring for me.
but that's capitalism. But that is it's kind of like, I would say this is a, I'll say this is the two-part question for me. It's a two-part answer for me. The personal, I'll say the personal part. The personal for me is find your joy. Do not look for your joy. Find your joy. Find stuff for you to do and find your boundaries. Find ways you can support people. What are ways you can support people in ways that, and if they don't want you to support in that way, just like Brother D said, you know, you say no and they say no, and maybe they find, and then they'll find their no. You know what I'm saying? That's what I do. Actually, for me, I feel like the opposite of what I do is I make people find their no. Because sometimes now you're not saying you're putting pressure on them, and that's what you're doing, and they're pushing pressure on you. And unfortunately, going back to capitalism in the man, I was thinking about this earlier about us men. Unfortunately, the ways of the cold callous man is done. You know, one of my favorite shows I watched was Mad Men, or my dad, he used to watch westerns all the time, and if you watch a western, Westerners are mostly like the guy goes out into the wild, wild west and finds the woman, and he finds her and loves her based on the fact that he saved her from a band of bandits or Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? It's not based on whether or not he has the feelings or emotions or trying to get to know her on any level. And work, and you think about how we treat work. Work is so much about working. It's cold and calculated. So, and it's weird, right? It's like, as men, we'll complain how women treat us, but we don't complain how the workplace treat us. And what can we do to stop that too? Because they're both connected. You know, for me personally, you know, I feel like the reason why I was so cold and calculated dealing with people and not finding my joy, because I went to as a teacher, you know, when if you working in that field sometime, it's hard to find that joy. I mean, that's why, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people I know have quit. You know, I've known a lot of friends. I'm like, and it is unless you find your own joy and you find your own ways of moving in this healthy, in this society, which moves about money. But money, I feel like this money and joy are two different things. If you're finding, you got to find joy within yourself. And also too, knowing how to support people in ways that's going to help them. Because like Brother D said, you know, if unfortunately, if you don't know how to use people, people going to use you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the way it goes. You know, if you don't know how to figure out what are you trying to manifest with this person or manifest with these people you working with, then they're going to use you in ways that's unhealthy for you and for them. You know, will they stay on your P's and Q's? Will they, yeah, stay on, yes, stay on your P's and Q's. Stay on your P's and Q's, and you know, don't catch you slipping. All these type of black vernaculars are really important. You know, are really important. And also, to me, you know, with us black men, is just we gotta find our own joy. You know, and also going back to, you know, if people, if this person or this, or you know, going back to you in relation with this woman and y'all not reflecting each other in healthy ways, then what are ways that, you know, what are ways to get out the relationship in a healthy way? And also too, you ask yourself how you get in a relationship in a healthy way. You know, a lot of, you know, I don't you know, and you got to know your boundaries too. And I'm going to talk about that later, but for a long time I had I had unhealthy boundaries that, unfortunately, even though there were boundaries, there were unhealthy boundaries, and it ended up creating a lot of mess in my life. So I had to realize, like brother D said, like, because I think for brother D, which is amazing, is that, he has so people seeing, like, he has so many of these things, and they see him as a, like, because he, quote unquote, may have it, quote unquote, together, and brother D know, and we know, what I'm saying, that we're all in, I'm struggling every day to figure it out too. I'm going through this process just as you do. So I think that, it's more about, I think in this society, it's all about being perfect. So it's so quick to, like, people need to, like, man, he got that energy, I'm gonna take his energy because he quickly understands this. And it's like people need to understand it so quickly instead of just being like, oh, we're just chilling. Or I'm just vibing and understanding, like an internship. Like I'm reading a book, or I'm YouTubing or something, so
Brother Leon just brought up a
Yeah.
very good about this whole thing about having it together. And my high schoolers that are coming back 2, 3 years later after graduating, I think I shared this with you before, says they feeling like they failures because they not making $100,000 a year out of high school. And I'm like, where are y'all getting this from? Um, it's a mad kind of situation when you throw male ego into this mix as well about what is manhood and what is it really getting it out here, and what I'm latching back on to what Brother Leon said. Yeah, we all still figuring this out. I'll never tell a youngster as old as I am now that I figured it out. And I tell them, anytime you run across somebody that claims to have figured it out, run the other direction. Because it's a constant learning process. You never get to,
yes.
okay, yeah, I got it now. I know what it is, man, and I figured it. Man, run the other way if a cat ever come at you like that. Because it's a constant. It's almost like in 10-year intervals. From 10 years old to 20 years old to 30 years old to 40 years old, it's intervals. And anybody telling you, "Oh, brother, yeah, I figured it out, and I'm about to show you how to figure it out," nah, bro, run from that. You're constantly learning. It's a constant learning process, and a lot of times we look around. It's like, who have we learned this from? A lot of it is a lot of, you said in the beginning, misinformation. A whole lot of things my peers and older cats told me was ridiculous now that I think back in hindsight, but I believed it to be what it should be. These are my folks I count as mentors. That was like, okay, because you don't have 3 kids by the time you're 21, something wrong with you. What are you doing? That's not what manhood is. You ain't been to jail. What? And that's not knocking nobody who has, but it's kind of like the rites of passage for brothers is crazy. It really is. What a lot of our brothers consider becoming a man, what makes you a man, is very, very upside down in a lot of ways. And me and Brother Leon have worked with youth and doing camps in the past. It was a camp we worked with called Camp Akili. It dealt with that. Like, just, what does it mean to function? How do I fit as a black boy in my family? How do I fit as a black boy in my city? How do I fit as a black boy in this country? Where do I really fit in, and what examples do I have? And who's going to help me? Brother Leon keeps saying that about being the help. How many brothers are really willing to be like, you know what, brother, let me show you the right way to do this. And not, well, here's the key part, and not take advantage of you. That's the part, that's the cold part. I'm going to help you, but not take advantage of you.
That's true.
That's what brothers need to get. Brothers need to be checking brothers on that.
So let's talk about that. Let's go back a little bit and talk about messages that you receive as children. Because I think it's important. I was watching,
Mm.
I want to say it's on Netflix. It's probably not on Netflix, but Snoop Dogg has a comedy special. Go figure. He's bringing in a bunch of, like, his friends that do comedy. And one of the things that, in the beginning of the special, he's talking about a bunch of different things, and he's talking about his childhood. And he said that when he was growing up, he really looked up to Pimp. And I think being from the Bay Area, I've heard that a lot from men that I have grown up with and knew, because pimps were, they dressed nice, they had money, they had women around them all the time, they had nice cars, they were well respected. And, as a young kid, a pimp really shouldn't be a role model for anyone, actually. But that becomes the thing, right? I'm thinking about a lot of images that we see on TV through different shows of, this is what a man looks like. I watch usually whatever my kids watch, I try to watch it with them. And my son doesn't like watching TV with me because he says I critique everything. But we were watching my wife and kids the other day, which love that show. I think I asked on my Instagram favorite TV dads. I love Michael Kyle. He's a fun dad, right? But when it comes to his son, right, the son is not very smart at all, right? And so I asked my son, well, what do you think this show is telling you, right? That, you have the daughter who's being basically worshipped for being pretty. You have the youngest who's kind of mischievous. And then you have the son, right? The only son in the family who's kind of being shown as like an idiot, right? And his dad is constantly picking on him and making fun of him and playing tricks on him, right? And so it kind of established for me at least that if I'm the son in this family, I feel that I can't really trust my father, right? Because it doesn't seem like he's on my side. He doesn't compliment me. He doesn't honor me. He makes fun of how I look, although I look like him, right? And so I'm just thinking about, as a younger child growing up, how do you make sense of all of these different messages that you're receiving about what it is to be a man in the world?
Um, who you want to go first, brother D? I want to go. I'm gonna go
Go
from
ahead,
a
Brother
different.
Leon.
I'm gonna go from a different perspective on this. This may sound crazy, but I've been working with white people for so long. I used to think, it's funny, like Carlton from the new Fresh Prince. It's a lot. It's a lot of kids like that. It's a lot, and I laugh because I think that a lot of times, especially these days, it's this like obsession with like, if he's he needs to be a doctor and a lawyer, and we know a lot, especially being a doctor these days, is very racist. Very, we're that's a very racist industry. Like them doctors, them white and Asian doctors be racist toward black doctors. They don't play. And then when it comes to maternal rates, when it comes to black women. So and then you look at the tech industry is very racist too. So it's like you're telling us like, okay, it's kind of like a catch-22 as a black man. Like either if you don't make it out the ghetto, then you got to work with white folks who going to basically make you go crazy. And it's crazy because like for me growing up, like I was, I was in AP courses and advanced placement courses. I was in all those like those intelligent black people courses. I was in all that stuff. And yeah, it did help me. But at the same time, financially, I'm still like, I think for real, like it's financially speaking, I'm still kind of like not really at that level I need to be, and going back to the fact that I live in East Oakland, right next to the to unfortunately sex trafficking spot. I seen many of brothers with cars and making a lot of money off sex trafficking, and it's not and it's weird because you'll think like we base so much things in morality, and especially for black men, because it's like, okay, if a black man either, we want him not to do these things, we want him not to be a pimp, we want him not to be these things, but then getting into these other fields like being a doctor and lawyer are not healthy for him either. So it's kind of like, on one hand, as I was growing up, I remember growing up to these being in these white spaces, like I don't want to be in these white spaces. I was like, I felt Get Out before even Get Out even happened. I was going to Stanford, I was going to all these places. I was like, I'm the only black kid in here. I don't like that. I don't like that. I did not like being the one or two black kid in the classroom. I did not like it. It did not, because, and also for me personally, I want to hang out with other black boys. And this is the 99 2000 era of Cash Money era. So it was in the area, in the arena, the environment I lived in. We lived in North Oakland. We lived in a nice neighborhood. So it was kind of weird seeing black men decide to be thugs, decide that they want to do these things, decide that they, instead of, because I mean, honestly, I know brothers right now who have moms and dads and got life sentences, and it got, so it was like when I was growing up, seeing these young black men who I was like, you trying to be a thug? And I'm like, why? And it's like, but then it became more about the manhood thing. And the last thing I'll say too, about white boys, about white men, it's interesting, right? Like we in this capitalistic white male society that's portrayed on us is very unhealthy to begin with, and is unhealthy for them. Yeah, they get money, but if you really think about white males these days, you see their declining population rate. You see, honestly, what happened with the Buffalo guy. The guy had an engineering degree. Both his parents, the Buffalo, whatever the guy who unfortunately murdered those people, he had a degree. Like he could have went to college. He could have easily went to college and got him a master's or a PhD. But instead, he decided to be a race soldier. So it's like you're seeing a lot more white males who, even though they may have opportunities, because this society isn't healthy even for them, and so it's not benefiting them. I think that the ills of the society messes up everybody in different ways. Like for black males, we become thugs, right? We become those things because we're like, we want to be set up that way. For white males, we white supremacists. And then also, last but not least, the last thing I say is, unfortunately, sex trafficking, most of the Johns are mostly Latino males. There's not a lot of black males out there who are getting the women. It's the Latino males who are buying it after the white male buys them for work. So that's how they're getting their money. But yeah, but also that's how I see it. That's how I see it about that situation. I'm done.
Brother D, you wanted to add?
I mean, the reality for me, when we talk about imagery and what environment is like, and I look at like my older cousins and older folks, older brothers in my neighborhoods. All of them had baby mamas, plural, and that was the expectation at a certain age. Like, if you haven't done that, then what's wrong with you, kind of thing. Something that, of course, not condoning, not making light of, because of course that has trickle down effects with it. But it's just like, it's disheartening, some of the things that have been normalized, even for me growing up watching that. Hey, this is what it means to be black and male in America. You got to be ready to take off as soon as somebody look at you strange that you don't know, or they not from where you're from. That's a whole lot to be heaping on a child. And that's how I got to look back at it. I laugh now saying it, but it's just like when I think about and talk to some of my friends now, the few who have survived 80s East Oakland, just what were we being prepped for? Like, where was the fun? Not saying we didn't have fun, but even thinking back on the things we thought were fun really was traumatizing. Like, we thought it was funny to see Knox get beat up. Like, we joke about, what if we had Instagram way back then? What if we had camera phones way back then, for the wildness that was happening in the 80s? Like, the world stars and all these wouldn't have had nothing on that, because we grew up in a very, not saying it's any less violent now, but definitely unsure and unsafe and just not nurturing. And we were searching for that, and in a lot of ways, we look up to a cat just because he survived the environment. Not that he necessarily was doing good things, but like, damn, you actually survived this, no matter how you're surviving it. And just on that note, when we talk about pimp culture or whatever, the first person to ever tell me I was intelligent was a pimp. That's just real. First person to tell, and would constantly remind me of that. Like, you smart. Don't ever let nobody tell you otherwise. I still to this day don't actually know what the mother, and I always prefix it with this. Not saying this person was trying to groom me and nothing like that, but just like, one side of quote unquote street people that people don't see, it's a lot of them root for those that they see trying to do something good, believe it or not. Even though they kind of feel like, hey, this is what my life is. I mean, I used to remember being threatened by D-boys on the block, that if they ever saw me out there doing whatever, and I thought that was so hypocritical. Like, you telling me about, I better not be cutting school, you better not never see me. It's like, even in that, they still care. Even in that, call them what you want to call them, but even in that, they even still see the value. They still see the light that's out there. Now, of course, there was some that didn't give a damn one way or the other, but that wasn't my experience. when I kind of look back and look at some of these black men who ended up becoming fallen soldiers from where I grew up, I'm just really just kind of fast forwarding what I'm saying. I'm just really starting to recognize and accept the PTSD of growing up in East Oakland in the 80s has had on me. That nothing was normal about my childhood. That me and my friends witnessed way more violence than any 10, 11, 12-year-olds should have been witnessing up front. And I don't know IG on no page. We saw it up close and personal. And where's the therapy for that? Where's the, we trade these stories. Man, you remember when so-and-so got knocked out? Remember when so-and-so got stomped out? Remember when he pulled a gun on them and aired out the...
Yeah.
Normal.
Oh, yeah.
That's not
normal.
You're right. And we normalized it at the time. That's what it is. It was a defense mechanism. It wasn't. Nothing was funny about that. We laughed then, but when I think back on that, I feel bad because I'm like, man, that was our own people attacking our own people. It's just part of the illness.
Yeah, horizontal violence, most definitely. And it's funny you say that because I say that the connection between meritocracy and classism, like I always shape on that because, a lot of times with the meritocracy is the idea of like, or it's like everybody should be intelligent and make money, even though intelligence should be garnered on everybody. Everybody should live in a healthy society. It shouldn't be bestowed on people who, if a person get an A, he should be out the hood. Everybody should be getting an A and having a society that's healthy and vibrant. I do want to ask a question to Brother D about the 80s in East Oakland. Was because I think a lot of times I see like, because I look at the other side of it too, because I was born in the 80s. So I don't have that experience, but I do feel like, when I look back also too, is the lack of job opportunities at that time for black men, and I think, do you think the reason why that pimp culture was so strong because there was a lack of jobs? So it's like, either what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to, instead of me creating opportunity in a healthy way, I'm going to go slide off and go into a situation where I'm going to go and be a pimp. I know that's not the healthy way of coping with it, but do you think that's a coping mechanism when you don't have job opportunity? Because I know with the mothers, the cookies place that shut down in the 80s. That's my dad used to tell me, like all the factories shut down in the 80s. So it's like, where's brothers going to go? And it's like, that's the thing I see in the 70s and 80s with black men. It's like, where is these jobs at? I'm like, my dad was blessed to have ability to be a mechanic and to be a welder and to have many opportunities, but a lot of our brothers didn't have that. They just kind of like, if they didn't have the factories, like, what else I'm gonna do with my life?
What they really got blindsided was the technology age came. How many brothers were computer literate? It was a whole new thing, was right on the horizon that they weren't even prepared for. While y'all was taking shop class at Castlemont, Fremont, and all that, the reality was those jobs was about to be obsolete by the time you finished high school. They weren't being prepared to do computer programming and coding, and they knew that was on the horizon. Where was Silicon Valley at in 1982, brother? Not where they at now, but they knew it was coming. We never got the invite. And so, not saying there wasn't other options for brothers. I do know that cocaine hit Oakland, California, bro, under some real auspicious and suspicious circumstances, and it was a quick fix for a whole. I mean, it's funny. People pause and gasp for air when they were like, well, why do they have to sell drugs? You know why? Because it's profitable. There's no other thing you can do that can flip your money that simply and that quickly. That's why a lot of brothers went that route. It's not rocket science. I could turn 40 into 80, 80 to 160. Like you're flipping. Now, of course, it comes with so much other dangers that comes along with it, because not only do I have to worry about being arrested, if I'm making too much money on my block, cats going to try to come take my territory. And this was the hell that literally got created during the 80s here with these turf wars that took place. Yep. And what you're seeing, fast forward 2022, and I predicted this about 10 years ago, I have brothers that are coming home from stints from a long time stints, and they're coming back home to Oakland thinking that they still running these blocks that they ran in the 80s, in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And these youngsters is
Yeah.
not trying to hear that. They know of you, bro. They've heard your name. They saw the pictures in their mama photo album with your Mustang and with your Cougar or whatever. You was getting it. They see that, but they don't respect none of that. It's a whole different set of rules. And cats is trying to come back smashing on these youngsters, and youngsters is not trying to hear it. You know, and vice versa. It's this whole other thing, and none of y'all own none of it. And I'm not and this statement I'm making is not condoning drug trafficking or drug usage or none of that. But I'm just saying flatly, black man, the drug game ain't even for you no more. Everybody got their hand in it now. Brothers that went
Yeah.
to jail for years for selling marijuana, bro. Now you can imagine how you feel. You done served 20 years, 30 years, and now I can have marijuana delivered to my home. I know brothers that went down for that. Imagine how that must feel. It ain't everybody
And,
else. Then they profit, like my brother said with the capitalism. They're making everything okay. If they can't tax it, that's what makes it illegal. My OG told me that a long time ago. It's like anything they can't tax is illegal. Think about it. If they can tax it, it becomes legal. And we're out of the picture with all of that. Like, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say definitely we know historically the '80s kind of really shaped a lot of what Black culture and the Black experience would look like for years and years to come. I think one of the things, well, a lot of things that you all talked about, but what's coming up for me are outlets and opportunities, right? That as Black men, Black people growing up, we deal with a lot of trauma. And there's not always a healthy or positive outlet to display or to deal with or to work through that trauma. And for a lot of Black males, because of pimp culture, gang culture, drug culture, the outlet and the opportunity is through violence, right? It's through violence. I'm going through something. I'm upset. I'm afraid. I'm nervous. I lack self confidence, right? I can demonstrate that through violence. I can go get in a fight. I can go join this gang. I can, risk my life on the street selling drugs. I can try to cope by expressing violence in this way. And I think for Black women, opportunities were different, right? In the '80s, the opportunity for Black women that was presented was social welfare, right? Hey, we understand Black people are going through this thing. We're going to help the women, not the men, right? We're going to help the women do this. We're going to put the women in job training programs. We'll give you grants to go back to school. We'll provide child care and these things, right? As a Black woman girl, I was always taught stay in school, go to college, stay in school, go to college. Those same messages were not given to my Black male friends. And so they found a way, an outlet for that. And, we're now in 2022. I see a very similar thing happening, right? That there's a sort of reawakening of Black women, right? Where now we are, Beyonce told us to quit our jobs the other night, her new song, right? She said, let it go, get you some rest, right? I talked about this on my story. I said, she told us 15 years ago, right? If he's not trying to put a ring on it, leave him, right? Black women have become empowered to ask for the things that we want, that will focus on self care when we're in our natural hair. But there hasn't been much of that same awakening for Black men. There hasn't been a lot of outlets for Black men to show up and say, I've been hurt, I need help, I'm going through something mentally, without really being shamed for it, to be honest. Without being shamed for it, and feeling like they are lacking or somehow insufficient because of it. So, for you all who are in uh, healthy positions in life, what are your outlets, your healthy outlets, where you feel like you can show up authentically, be yourself, express yourself, let off steam, exercise self care, reset, rest, and recover? What are those outlets for you where you're healing?
It's interesting because I think we talked about this before back in the day. The whole idea when Black men used to go to lodges and they would go to the lodge after work, talk about their boss, how hard their day was or whatever, have a couple of beers, shoot some pool, and let all of that out before they went home. So you're not taking that out on your wife, you're not taking that out on your children or whatever. Sometimes maybe the barbershop is an outlet, but in this whole super hyper, I'm hard all the time and don't nothing bother me kind of environment that's been created, I can't go to Brother Leon and be like, man, you know what? My girl hurt my feelings without worrying about that brother considering me soft or not. Oh, bro, what you complaining about? Or what the advice might be? Oh, well, forget her, bro. There's 3 other ones out here. Like, it's interesting how that gets flipped. Like, can I really share with my brother what I'm going through, or do I just be like, you know what? I don't rather than risk that and how he gonna think about me or anybody else is gonna think about me, I'm just gonna hold this to myself. And that's why so many black men are walking ticking time bombs out here that either choose to self-medicate themselves one way or the other. I know a lot of brothers my age and younger are dropping like flies in the past 3-4 years. You know, the reason why I had these annual pre-COVID, I would have during my birthday week of June every year. I'd have these community events, and we would have screenings there for brothers for high blood pressure, HIV, or whatever. And a lot of brothers, I get it. It's part of that whole, you know, if I'm in pain, I can take some Henny, and it's gonna go away. Or I don't, you know, if I am out there having unprotected sex and really wilding out, I don't want to know because I know I'm wilding out. Um, it's sad to see black men, some black men, I'll never generalize, you know, have to have that ton of bricks fall on their head before they do something about it. It's a very vicious cycle. And this is just why I do youth work so much, because I know a lot of brothers, and not saying all of them are unbendable or not willing to change, but they be pretty much set in their way. Like, I've done this more than half of my life. It's sad that it takes something tragic to happen before we try to switch up, you know, before they find religion or whatever might happen during that time that makes them make some tangible change in their lives. And you know, brothers gotta really understand how much we really need each other, because in actuality, sister, as you just alluded to, who is our ally? What ally do we have? In a lot of cases, even amongst ourselves, like, we really got, if we don't look at it at that level at this point right now in the juncture or where we fit in this world, we really in trouble. We have no allies. Everything is our fault.
John Henry Clark said, what did John Henry Clark just said? You have no friends. Dr. Henry Clark is a famous historian. I'm gonna talk about what the brother was talking about too. You know, I will say, I'm gonna put it out there. I will say, because I was, it's like, you ever heard of Harel Afro, right? I mean, I don't know how to pronounce it, but to pull you up your bootstrap fantasy, right? I think that in this society, to be honest, and this is historical too, is that we're beginning to see the edges of late stage capitalism. See, in the 40s and 50s and 60s is a book, Dr. Robert G.D. Kelly, he made a book called Hammer and Hoe. I haven't read it yet, but what little information I have about it is the thing of communism and socialism. Like, in this society, we're hyper communism, so it's all about making money. Like, you know, in the 50s, they told us we're not going to work that much, and now look at us now, we're working 80-hour weeks in America, right? But if you go to Europe, you can literally like sleep. They have like times where you sleep at work. At this day, we overworked. You know, we're working 5-6 hours. We're working so many hours, and especially as black men, we come home, we're like, man, I'm just tired. I don't even know what to do half the time, or I'm like, I can't find a job. Or you working at Amazon? You know, I had a brother. He had an emotional issue. He had an issue with me, and the reason why he had an issue with me, because I called him out on something. I called him out on something. And then I told him in a healthy way what was going on. And he explained, like, I've been working Amazon all day. He was working 12-hour shift. So he's working 12-hour shift and then having a meeting with me about something that he really needs to have a meeting about. It's like, that's not really going to help him function. You know, a lot of brothers work at Tesla. They work in 18-hour shifts. I mean, I heard a lot of horror stories working at Tesla. And most of them are black men who are working for, who go all the way from Richmond and drive all the way down to Fremont. So these jobs, or you doing security. And and unfortunately, I know a dude I went to school with, he got killed. You know what I'm saying? Working in that field. And it's like, it's very unhealthy right now. It's like they expect us to work these jobs and do all these things that require us to work so much and overwork ourselves to the point where we get home, we like, man, I got how I'm gonna deal with my woman in a healthy way when I'm not being dealt with in a healthy way at work. We're not giving, like you said, we're not giving grace at work. So when I get home, I'm not giving grace to nobody at home. It's and I say that, like, this job market, really, honestly, it's kind of, this is what I feel like too. Like, the job market is easier for white people because here it is not say that it's easier for them in the sense of, like, because they're smarter. It's because the mentality of how they think or what they're prescribed to be. Like sports, for example. We're very popular in sports because we're good at it and we're strong at it. Like, every single time, like, we just had the what's his name, the NBA draft tonight. And I'm pretty sure the majority of those people who got drafted are either black men or Africans, or black men, African American, So it's like, if we had an easier way of making money and that was easier and profitable and not including us having to be in situations where we have to murder each other, then you will see that environment be better. But it's like, it does take a lot of work to get out that loop of, in that cycle of violence if you've been in it for so long. Because I don't, unfortunately for me, I didn't have to experience that, but I can only imagine if you are in that cycle, that it's hard for you to get out of it. So, but it's like, we got to create those environments for us as me. And I have to say that for me, this is only for me personally. I have to make an environment easier for me as an educator, make it easy for other black males to be educators. Like, I got to make it easier for them. I can't just be like, well, they got to do it because it's the right thing to do. It's like, well, what can I do to make it easier on him to say, man, I really want to be an educator. And this to make it easier, because it is hard. Like, passing, I passed so many tests and I still got to pass tests. And then one time I had to, like, commute to St. Mary's. Like, it's a lot of work to be a teacher on top of being a teacher. So it's like, make it easier so that way, because black males, we have a lot of stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of things going on. So it's like, make it easier so that way brothers can say, hey, I could do this. I don't have to just worry about, I could be a teacher today and get the support I need to be a better teacher. Instead of, like, if I play sports, I look at sports players, they get a lot of support. When I'm an educator, I've been in situations where they gave me no equipment for these students. They ain't gave me nothing for these students. Like, I had to figure out on the fly. So it's like, I think it's just me personally, is just like figuring out ways, what can I do to make sure that when I see a black male and he, if he needs some support, whether it be with him or even with situations with his baby mother, because I know brothers right now dealing with that too. Like, hey, brother, hey, what are you doing to what can I do to help you with your child's mother? What can I do to communicate to her, like, hey, he needs to, and what can I give you some money? Do I need to give you some money? Do we need to pool money together? Do we need a mutual fund for other brothers? So that way, brothers who need help with their child support, we can give it to them. Like, it's so many. It's being creative with support, with the solutions that we're giving black men. And that's what I want to do. Like, what solutions where I can do to support the black men, and that way they can be the best person they can be.
Leon, Leon, I know that you do several things. I know that you are a runner, a cyclist, you do yoga. How did
Yeah.
you get involved in those things? And do you feel like they are helping you to manage all the stress that comes with just being black every day?
Oh, my bad. That was the question. I did it. It was super. Okay, my apology. For me, it helps me. Like, I like riding my bike. I like riding my bike. I like doing yoga. I say yoga started for me 11 years ago because at the time, I'll be honest, I didn't feel like that I was ever going to get better physically, because once again, I was living in fantasy world. I was living in, like, I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be like a multi-million-dollar whatever. I wanted to be some type of whatever. I don't know, something. some, and I'm like, because I went to school with Marshawn Lynch, I went to school with these football players, I went to school with Leon Poe, and I was like, man, I want to be like them in some ways, like, instead of me being me, you know what I'm saying? So I think that was like the going back to what Brother D said, like when you out of high school, when you first start doing things out of high school, you just and things don't go the way you want to when you first start, you tend to like lose your mind a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like at the time when I first started doing yoga, it came from a place of me like being very angry and frustrated with myself, and also having issues with other men because at the time I wanted a lot of support from them. I wanted a lot of support from other black males in my field, and I didn't get it, so I was acting out. As I got, but when I started working out more and I started doing that, I had to get more humble. I had to let loose of those strains of these anger issues I was having towards other black males because I supposedly thought they weren't supporting me. When in reality, it's like we're all trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And we're all trying to support each other. So as I kept on going, I kept on running, I kept on doing these things, I started realizing that I started going back to counseling too in 2018. And that's when I feel like things have gotten better since, because my mental health has helped with, and also to work on your mental health on your own outside of running, outside of working out. That's how I feel too. Because if you I feel like they're like, even though I am working out, it helps me, but getting counseling, getting support systems outside that helped me too. So it's kind of like on top, it's like the extra on top of that dressing compared to just working out. I mean, some people do that. Some people think that's work, that's cool, that the working out is cool. But I feel like too, is like when it came to me, I started realizing that I also needed that counseling too. I needed to talk to somebody outside of just running and working out. So for me, having a better mental health, it started to become one-on-one, and also to realize it's one day at a time, and realize that it's only one day at a time. So it wasn't for me realizing that I had to be the fastest or this. I just realized that I know that I'm doing the right thing for myself. That I know that I'm making things happen, and that it's one day at a time. Like if I run today and if it's not the best, that's perfectly fine. But I know that I'm gonna make it back. As of right now, I actually had a calf strain for the last couple weeks. So I haven't really been running and working out. But I think that the salutations that I've been doing helped me. So like I said, like with the person I was working with, brother Shaka Jamal, and we was doing this thing 2 years ago, and we did like for like 20 days straight. Brothers did yoga together for 20 days straight, and we talked to each other and communicated with each other. That really helped me too, because there were times when even during that time I didn't want to do it. So now that I'm in that space now, I feel comfortable doing it at all times, even when I feel comfortable not doing it.
I love that. I love that. We are winding down on our time, but I do have a couple of questions that were submitted on Instagram that I want to make sure we get to. And the first one is along some of those lines of self care and things like that. So this person wants to know, how do you start a self care practice? It's not something that I have thought much about or have ever done. So, how would you suggest someone start self care? Like, maybe I've never done yoga or I'm not really into running, but I want to do something that's going to help me relax and feel good about myself. How do I even start to figure that out?
I would say what I said earlier: identify 3 to 5 self joys. What are 3 to 5 things that give you? Like I said, a lot of people think there has to be some huge, I gotta, swim from Alcatraz kind of thing. Like, no, what are just some small things that give you joy? Because you might not even really be paying attention to it. I like my drink with hella ice in it, that kind of thing. I know people that love crushed ice, that kind of thing. What are 3 to 5 small joys that are easy to sustain, that doesn't take a lot, and that you can be very intentional about practicing? During the pandemic, I gave a few when it first started. I know one thing that got me through. Mattel happened to on YouTube be running 24/7 old episodes of GI Joe, and I was on that because it took me back to being a kid, like literally. And I wasn't worried about nothing. I found myself, yeah, binge. I ain't saying binge watching media is great, but what I am saying is it was an outlet. There are literally YouTube channels that just show 80s commercials, 80s, 90s commercials, just to give you the. Sometimes you need to go back to, and I know childhood might not be the best memories for a lot of people. I have to always throw that in. Might not be their best years. Um, but just small stuff first. I think a lot of people, when they want to make that change, when we're talking about in terms of mental health and self care, because people push it out like that, like it has to be this grand change, it start out with anything, small steps first, and it's gonna help you down the line. Identify 3 to 5 little small joys that you like. What's your favorite ice cream? Damn, I haven't had bubble gum ice cream in hella long. You know what? I'm finna go get me some Saturday. That kind of thing.
I like that. Simple. Just do things that you enjoy. But yeah, what's one way they can get started on their self care practice?
Um, right, and be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with what you can and can't do. Don't start being more honest with yourself. Looking yourself in the mirror and then looking at what can you do to be a better person, and also knowing how to um yeah, just doing that, and also doing small steps, like doing something you feel comfortable with. Like if you go to a yoga class and you only do one thing, that's perfectly fine. That means you gotta go back and do more. I think a lot of times when you go to these places, you people get scared because they feel like, oh, like you go to a yoga class and you're like, everybody else is doing it better than me, like, you know what I'm saying? And you gotta get out of that, or somebody's doing it better than me, or this person doing it better, that person, no, don't do that, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's what it is. So being honest with yourself, and loving, and I think that's the first thing, is just like knowing where you're at, and knowing that, and recognizing your strengths. I think that's the first thing too, recognizing your strengths. Don't be, if you're beating yourself up, then find those strengths. No matter how small they are, just find them. So I think that's the first thing, and then you'll go from there.
I love that you named being honest with self care. That is so important. Being honest with yourself as part of self care keeps you out of a lot of trouble, and it just eliminates a lot of problems moving forward. Okay, this is kind of a big question, but I want you to answer it sort of concisely. This person says, what is one way that Black women could be better allies or partners for Black men? Just one way, guys. Just one. That's all we want. Just one way. Okay, go ahead.
Say that one more time.
What is one way that Black women can be better allies or partners for Black men?
I would say taking some self inventory, and as my brother said, being honest with yourself is how set and how solid are you with yourself. You know, being an ally means I'm ready to plug in what I have with you immediately. Ain't no time to, if we both out in battle, I don't have time to ask Brother Leon 20 questions about, are we on the same page? There needs to be automatically something I see right off the bat, that we speak in the same language, that we on the same mission, and we can go. A lot of times I see people, my gingerbread theory I was talking about with the 5 things of finding, folks will say, this is what I'm looking for in an ideal mate or an ideal partner. And then when you force them, well, not force them, but you suggest that they look at the types of people that they entertain, they almost never match up. Oh, I want a man or a woman that's funny. And the person you with is not funny. Oh, I want to make that spiritual. And the person you entertaining, ain't nothing spiritual about them. And you wonder why you keep running against this brick wall. My brother said it best with the being honest with yourself. To be an ally, you got to really identify an ally to who and for what, like for what reason. You know, nobody's necessary, and I'm not speaking for all black men. I'm speaking for this black man. Are looking for, and I would say this: no real man, and people will say that's subjective. Wants you to feel sorry for them, not looking for you to take care of him. No man, I'll say that. No man is looking for you to take care of him. Support is one thing. Taking care of and coddling. I don't coddle other black men. I definitely don't expect black women to. I won't coddle another black man. I'm here to be a resource and be a support, but I'm not about to. It's interesting, and I'll share this briefly. With an organization that I worked for one summer, I had a brother, I was the supervisor, and the brother was coming to work late every day, like every day. And we're working with young people, so I'm super sensitive, especially when we're projecting and giving and delivering to young people. And so we ended up having this mediation because, we were getting into it about it, and I did it in love. I wasn't dragging the brother, doing nothing publicly. But it was suggested by the mediator. Well, they asked us, they asked him the question, did he feel I could support him better? And I still to this day can't believe this came out of his brother's mouth. He suggested that I call and wake him up to come to work. And I was like, would AC Transit call you to wake you up to come to work? Would PG&E call you to wake you up to come to work? I will not do that. I was very clear. I'm not going to do that. To me, that's damaging him more than anything because we're still not getting to the root issue. Like, brother, this is how the real world works. I'm not about to coddle you. I'm not. And I don't expect allyship, most definitely, but I think you just really got to be clear and intentional about what you're trying to do. You can be a help, but like, what are you actually trying to do? Everybody not out here looking for a Coretta Scott King or Betty Shabazz or, I know some sisters that want to find that these real folks I know. Like, but not everybody's looking for that. I might be the revolutionary brother that ain't even necessarily looking for that though. It might not be what I'm looking for. And you want to be an ally and you want to be a support, but what if that's not what I'm looking for?
That's true. I see what you're saying.
One way black women can better support black men. Just one way.
Man, that's I guess I'm gonna say this. This is me. This is only me. I don't like telling black women what to do with black men. I just don't. That's just my personal opinion. That's the first thing. But if I would say something, be yourself. You know what I'm saying? Be honest with yourself, man. Just know what type. Like if you're a man, if you're for example, like let's say I'll say this. When I was younger, I used to think I had a problem with Erykah Badu because she had hella baby daddies. And now I'm older, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, where did that come from? Like, where did I come from? Like, where the fuck did I come? And it used to be mad. Now I cuss. I didn't mean to cuss. But it just, for me, it's like he said too, is like and also too, with us, it's like, being yourself, because sometimes brothers, you may extend yourself to a brother or to a situation, and that brother may not give the same respect back to you, unfortunately. So, man, but I would say support and help in the ways that you want to support. You know what I'm saying? Don't act like you said, you ain't got to go all out for brothers, but just do the support you can do. You ain't got to do support you want to do, and also knowing how to support people in healthy ways. You know what I'm saying? I know that, like you said, like he was saying, and I like what he said about the brothers. Like, it's a difference between like you supporting a brother in a healthy way and you trying to be in love with him or try to do other weird stuff with him instead of trying to help him the way that he needs to be helped. and the way he needs to be supported and the ways that he needs to be cared for. So just being self-aware of that, because once you figure those things out, you can support that brother in a healthy way and say, I could be an ally and he's getting the support he needs from places that doesn't require me to do things that either undermine what I'm trying to do with the brother or undermine my own integrity with myself.
And what I will add, particularly to, and I tell this to the sisters that I teach and all the young ladies and ladies in general, what gets a man's attention ain't necessarily directly related to what's going to get his respect. Just keep that in mind. What gets our attention don't necessarily mean gets our respect. And I see a lot of folks kind of, I'll be what you want me to be, sort of like the sister in Coming to America, arf, kind of thing. And it's like, you know, that's definitely, that would definitely get your attention, but is that ultimately what I want? Or am I really going, are you really going to go that far? What am I going to think of you of that you even put yourself out there like that? You know, I protect your heart at all times on both sides. You know, I do know brothers that use that affinity that you have for us. The whole thing about knowing how much black men get beat down and what they go through. I know brothers who use that and manipulate with it. You know, oh, you know, I didn't have no mama, and you know, I've been through this and I've been through that. Okay, brother. I know 10 brothers got the exact same story you just told. But we not finna lay down. No, that's what we not gonna do. You know? Support that brother, but don't coddle that brother. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah, I think, you know, this generation is very much on the one side it's like kind of like take me as I am, like love me or leave me, I'm not changing anything about myself. But then on the flip side of that, you know, the people that aren't saying take me as I am, there's like these long lists, this checklist of everything that we want people to be and have and do. And if someone misses one, then it's like, okay, no, this person is not for me, can't do it, I'm out. What I say to people who are desiring to be in relationships is the best thing you can do to support someone is allow them to grow. Allow them to grow. That doesn't mean when you see what you perceive as a deficit or a bad habit or a fault and you swoop in and you try to fix it. Allow that person to grow in the way that it is, right? Set your boundaries. There are some things, you know, I was telling somebody this the other day. When I met my husband, there were things that he didn't like. I didn't say, oh, you got to quit doing this and stop doing that or you can't talk to me. I said, oh, you know what, that's what you like to do. I don't enjoy doing that, so you can go and do that on your own, right? You like to go do that. When you're doing that, you know, call me when you're done. That's great. And what my husband found is I don't like doing that more than I like spending time with you. So I'm going to do less of that or I'm going to spend time with you. That's a decision that he made, right? I wasn't like pounding him and calling him and saying, you know, I really hate that. I really wish you would stop. Oh, look, here's a book I got for you. Here's a YouTube video you should watch about not doing that, right? Here's so-and-so who did this, right? And I think sometimes as women, we get so caught up in trying to fix it, right? If you say, you know, my neck is itching, I'm like, oh, there's 10 ways to scratch it. Let me tell you how, right? And we just want to fix things for people, but allow people to grow in the way that they would grow. Because, you know, after all, you're not their parent. This last question actually came from, again, someone on my Instagram. And this is going to probably be our last question because we're winding down here. But here's the question. What is something that you wish people knew and understood about being a black man? Something that you wish people knew or understood about being a black man.
I gotta do something real quick, like 5 seconds. 1 second.
Okay, Brother D, take us away. Something you wish people
Something that I wish people knew.
knew or understood about being a black man.
In the literal sense, it's a blessing and a curse. There's a bar that's set real high in some situations, and then in some situations there is no bar. And here we are with a blindfold. You ever see a circus? They had a person on the high wire blindfolded walking across it, and then you'll see some of them actually jump rope on it blindfolded. It's a juggling act in a whole lot of ways, but I wouldn't trade it in for anything else because we also built for it. You know, uh, uh, we've been told otherwise. We've been told that we're not worthy, and we've bought into that lie. A lot of brothers have bought into it that things are never going to get better. They've never been better. Um, when you've been basically told your whole history started as savages or started in slavery, then where's the bar? And I often find myself, I have to balance when my youngsters, and I talk about African history and world history, which African history is world history. Um, honestly, my youngsters can clap back and be like, "Okay, brother, but that was 5,000 years ago. What about right now?" That's a bitter pill to swallow. I want to hear nothing about no African greatness. Look at what's happening right now in my city, in my neighborhood. But even in that, I gotta let them know that there's still that same inner core thing for that greatness still dwells in you. Because a sleeping giant is still a giant. Just because he sleep, don't mock him. He's still a giant. You still a giant. He's just a sleep giant. That's all. Once you spark that and they get to see, and that's always been the threat. And I know Brother Leon and you yourself can always attest to this. This is why the work we do with young people is dangerous. We are a threat. Because when you work with young people act. Older folks talk. Young people act on what they feel. That's why that's every movement you've ever seen, young people. You and them wasn't 30 years old starting the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Young people act on what they do. That's always been the threat. And so if I can in any kind of way, no, I'm not trying to make no minions or have no clones of what I do. What I am trying to get them to do, though, is think outside the box and let them know that you've been lied to you. You've been lied to. I'm the dude that's telling you, yeah, Santa ain't real, brother. And I don't care who know that. It's actually vital that you know this, that this is a big lie. So you don't continue to tell this lie. Because if you hear something enough and you start repeating it enough, you start. My youngsters said something about being on CP time one day, and I had to check him. Where did that even come from, color people time? We invented the concept of time. What are you talking about? That just being late, oh, that's just a black people thing. Like, nah, we're not buying that. But anyway, I'll hand it to Brother Leon. Being a black man, brother, what they need to know.
So what they, I feel like this with black men around, especially our youngsters, a lot of them, our black men are scared of speaking up for themselves unless it's in a negative way. You're right. I think that's one thing about our brothers that they struggle with is like they'll in a positive space, they'll be very scared. Like I had a student, man, I had this black boy, he'll talk up a storm every other time in class, but the time we had to speak up, he'd be like, I don't want to speak. I'm like, he'll get shy, he will shrink. And you can, and I talked to him about it too. Like he had and also in his writing, he was scared to write. And I told him, I think a couple weeks before school, and I'm like, look, Summer, man, you got to write. You got to figure this out. You just got to write on your own. Right? I don't care. You write 2 sentences today. Did you write 2 sentences today? Did you write something today? Did you try? Like for me personally, the poetry I started. I was under Bamuti. Bamuti. Look, Google him. He's a famous dude now. I think he's famous. But I remember when I first started doing poetry, I didn't know how to write it. I was just writing. I was writing. My first poem was a story about me hugging my mom as a teenager because I was scared to hug my teenager in high school because I thought that wasn't cool. You know what I'm saying? But as I kept on writing, I kept on doing poetry. I got better at it. I mean, that's the thing too. We're telling our black men like it's going to get better. Like, don't be like scared to do something because it's easy for you to do. Man, I know how to do this easily. I know how to honestly, even when it comes to doing illegal things, takes a lot of work. So why not put that work into something else that can benefit you in the other way. You know what I'm saying? Because everything you have to do, I tell them, even with these rappers, like these rappers out here, they got degrees and stuff, man. They out here having to write stuff down. Mr. Fab, in order for him to do Dope Era, he got to write a business plan. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, all these rappers doing NFTs. Snoop Dogg got 20 million businesses. You know what I'm saying? He got businesses and he acting, so that takes a lot of organization skills. Like he ain't just like, man, yeah, he spoke a lot of weed, but he probably be on time for live and stuff. You know what I'm saying? He be there smoking weed, be like 7 o'clock in the morning, but he on time. You know what I'm saying? He ain't gonna be. You see, he wasn't late for the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So I think for brothers recognizing that you can be smart and be successful. And a lot of these rappers who are thugs, who are gangsters, they got LLCs. You know what I'm saying? They do a lot of work. They look at Mr. Like I said, E40. Griselda, one of my favorite rap groups. You know what I'm saying? All it is at the end of the day, if you're a rapper or you're trying to do any field, you can start. It starts with you knowing something. Tupac. One of the reasons why I started reading Machiavelli is because of Tupac. You know what I'm saying? So it's like even Malcolm X. Malcolm X, reason why I call myself Bimby Reginald X, Bimby, for Malcolm X, Bimby was a pimp. So but he saw the use of how he used it in order to be successful. So I think to a lot of brothers, they think things are easy. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times that's why they end up, honestly, why you be having 50 years. Oh, how come? Well, I thought Pimp was easy. No, now you're doing 50 years now. Cause I know cats like that. I was in East Oakland. I remember dudes that's driving up and down the street 5-6 years ago. Now I see them in the news, and the thing I see him in the news is, oh, he doing 30 years. And when you get out, you a registered sex offender. So how you gonna get a job? You know what I'm saying? Good luck. And they label you that. So for brothers recognizing that it's okay that it's not easy, but once it becomes easy, it becomes simple. Like because like you said, even selling drugs, even being a drug dealer takes a lot of work. Felix Mitchell was a smart man. He figured out, okay, if I do certain things, nobody's gonna go to jail. But he used that ingenious for, unfortunately, got him in a casket. And the only thing he got out of it, honestly, was, people using his likeness in a movie. You know what I'm saying? That they made a bunch of money. So, knowing, making brothers understand that, like a lot of people that you see on TV have people around them that have degrees and have to write and have to do things that you may see on TV, mean like, oh, that's all they're doing. They just making beats. Or they're just rapping, or they're just singing, or they're just, and you don't realize, even as a rapper, that takes a lot of work. Like, I know cats behind the scenes, even Travis Scott, that takes a lot of work to put that music together. You know what I'm saying? That's not just something you could just be like, because that sounds like some stupid stuff. Well, it may be stupid stuff, but it takes a lot of work. Like, you gotta know what's the 4/4, the 2/4. Do you know when the beat drops, when the beat comes in? Do you know when to say that one lyric that's gonna get people to be like, yeah, I like that song? That is something that people have to like stop thinking like these things actually do work. They actually put in a lot of work. So don't, so even the people who are the quote unquote silly dudes, they are still making money. So just a thought, everything takes work.
Everything, every single thing. Well, I thank you all for joining this conversation with me. I have definitely learned a lot just about the two of you, but also just about the Black male experience as well. And I know our audience did too. Take a moment just to tell people where they can find you at on the internet. Brother D, go ahead. What do you have? Where can they check you out at?
Go ahead, Brother Leon. Oh, is your mic on, brother?
So I am on Instagram as Bimby Reginald X. I am actually but I'm about to put my link in the chat. So if if you are, if you want to follow me, you want to follow anything I'm doing, like I said, the link is in the thing. Right now I am in the process of, I have a website called Bread and Circuses Diaspora, because we're tired of bread and we're tired of the circus. So that's why that's the motto for it. And basically, yeah, we're tired of all that. We want a real reality. So that's something that I'm dealing with right now. Also, like I said, Dope has changed. Code, check that out. We got one in July. We've been doing that for 2 years. She's, me and my homegirl from high school, we've been doing it for 2 years. Yeah, and check it out if you can. The link is in.
Hey, Brother D, what you got going on?
On Instagram, my personal page is holla at Brother D. And my org page, which is the Catalyst Foundation for Youth Development, is We Are the 3Rs. Also, wearethe3rs.com is my website, and that's my pride and joy. And also the podcast that I have is the Pachyderm podcast, which Sister Brandy has been a guest on, and I will have Brother Leon on as well. I've just been on a hiatus the past couple of months to get that back cracking. And where you find your youth work, you're going to find me.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, thank y'all so much for being here. People are definitely going to check you out. Go ahead.
We missed the question. I just realized that. Did we answer how important it is for you to give yourself credit for your accomplishments? Also, what do you do for yourself to recharge?
We did not answer quickly because we gotta go.
Oh yeah. Just do you, how important it's important. I don't do it that much, and honestly, I do need to start recharging. I think it's important for you to recharge because you got to do that. I was just thinking when I watched it, I was thinking about like that's what I'm trying to do right now as we speak. So yeah, definitely it's definitely for me to recharge is doing honestly facial stuff on myself. You know what I'm saying? That's a chance for me to recharge. You know what I'm saying? Or getting my nails done or getting a haircut or something. So that's how I do it.
Thank you for catching that. I did not see that. So thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting you guys. Definitely check them out. Check out both of their podcasts. If you can, go ahead and follow them on the internet, on Instagram. Check out their websites and support. But y'all have a good night.
Thank you so much. Love you, Brother Leon. Thank you,
Love you too.